Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I am Risha and this is For the Love of Classics. I hope you're all doing well, washing your hands, staying inside and staying safe. Today I'm here to talk about the last three classics I read. So the first book I want to discuss is The Gambler by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. This is a Russian classic and translated into English by C.J. Hogarth. I read it from the Arcturus Publishers edition, and this edition had 200 pages. Dostoyevsky wrote this book in a month because he was under pressure from his publishers to write something. Dostoyevsky was himself addicted to gambling, and that was the inspiration behind the book. This book is not autobiographical, but there are so many parts of the book which are inspired from the author's personal experiences in life. So the story is about a young man who is a tutor to a Russian family living in a German town. The head of the family this tutor is working for is a general. He was well off, but now he's having some financial problems. He is indebted to a Frenchman. So this general is looking forward to the death of this grandmother who lives back in Moscow in order to pay all of his debts. So the tutor, Alexei Ivanovich, goes to the gambling house and he plays there on behalf of the niece of the general. He is in love with Polina and basically does whatever she asks him to do. So this is where the story begins, and then later on the grandmother pays a visit to the family in Germany. I do not like gambling and I can understand how an addiction can ruin a person's life. So I was hesitant in picking up this book because the name of the book is The Gambler. But I did pick this up because I have already read Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoyevsky and I absolutely loved reading this book. I'm really glad I decided to read The Gambler because this was a fast-paced book and I really enjoyed reading it. Dostoyevsky describes the insides of the gambling houses perfectly. You can sense his excitement when he is describing the roulette table. The writing flows so smoothly and the internal turmoil of a gambler and addict is explained perfectly. An interesting part of the story was that people from different nationalities come together in the book. So there is a German, nobody likes him. There is a Russian who seems lost. There's an Englishman who is the most well-spoken of them all. There's a Frenchman whom nobody likes. He's the most cunning person in the book. And it was very interesting how these people talked to each other about their nationalities and how they talked about them behind their backs. So I really enjoyed the book, but I knocked off a star because I did not really like the ending. But then there cannot be a satisfactory ending in a gambler's or an addict's life, unless of course he gets help. So now I've read two books by Dostoyevsky, The Gambler, and Crime and Punishment. Next on my list is The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. This is a chunker of a book. So there is a read-along being hosted on Instagram for The Brothers Karamazov, and it is hosted by Hemingway to Dostoyevsky. The read-along is going to start on the 8th of April, and any of you can join in if you are interested. I'm going to put the details down below. So the next book which I want to discuss is The Red Pony by John Steinbeck. Steinbeck is an American author and I have not read a lot of books by American authors before. The only thing I know about Steinbeck is that he writes sad stories, and I really had to go out of my comfort zone to pick something up by him. I'm glad I chose a short book by him rather than his bigger books like East of Eden. So this edition of Penguin had almost 90 pages in it. This was such a pretty edition. There are 4 chapters in this book. Each chapter signifies an important event which happened in the life of this 10-year-old boy in California in the 1930s. His name is Jody Tiflin and he lives with his parents in a ranch. I was struggling with the language in the book because there is a lot of terminology about animals and farms. The first chapter is called The Gift, and it is this red pony which Jody Tiflin receives from his father. He absolutely loves it and is really happy to have a pony for himself. So the second chapter is called The Great Mountains. The thing which bothered me in this chapter was this part of Jodie Tiflin's character which peeks through. So we see this 10-year-old boy torture animals around the ranch because he is bored. This was disturbing to read. The third chapter in the story was called The Promise. In this chapter, one of the horses on the ranch is pregnant. There are certain complications of childbirth, and Jodie sees these complications while the horse is giving birth to the colt, and that is very disturbing for him. The last chapter of the book was called The Leader of the People, and in this chapter, Jodie Tiflin's grandfather comes to visit them. This was one of the most thought-provoking chapters because it made you realize how the grandfather is snubbed at every occasion because his stories and his emotions are no longer relevant to today. But the connection we see between Jodie Tiflin and his grandfather is very sweet because he understands that his grandfather is hurt by how his father is treating him. So you would expect this book to be cheerful because it's about a 10-year-old boy, but this is Steinbeck we are talking about, and tragedy hits at every occasion. I enjoyed his writing and I quickly went through the book. I gave it a 3.5 star because there was not one character which I actually liked. They were all flawed people and not very likable. The last book which I read in the month of March was The Cranford Chronicles by Elizabeth Gaskell. This book has 3 short stories in it. The first one is called Mr. Harrison's Confessions. In the first story, a surgeon comes to this small town in the north of England. So the arrival of this young doctor in the town causes this disturbance because he is bringing new revolutionary methods and also because all the ladies are flustered around him. It was a very cute and happy story. The second story was called Cranford. I'm sure many people have heard about Cranford because there is a BBC mini-series called Cranford. This story is about a group of single ladies living together. There is subtle feminism under Gaskell's writing because all these women live independently. They're all a little bit afraid of men because they have always lived in this society where there are a lot of ladies. These ladies host tea parties, there is small town gossip, but they are also there to help each other out in times of trouble. I absolutely love this story as well. The third story was called My Lady Ludlow. It is about this aristocratic lady living in this small town. All of the town really respects her. She believes in the old ideology. She does not think that people should get educated. But then a new clergyman comes to town and he wants to make a school. We see why Lady Ludlow does not want education to be common. She explains this to one of her companions by sharing some of her life experiences. I wasn't a huge fan of Lady Ludlow at the beginning, but by the end of the story, I was really enjoying it and I really loved her character. I decided to read this book now because of what has been going around lately, and this book was such a comfort read for me. It just made me feel all kinds of happy, and it makes you realize that there is kindness in everybody's heart, which is something we all need right now. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. Now I'm done with North and South, Wives and Daughters, Mary Barton and the Cranford Chronicles. There are a couple of other books by Gaskell as well, like Ruth and Sylvia's Lovers, which are going to be my next books by her. I would highly recommend this book if you like comfortable, cozy reads about kindness and people living together and coming together for each other in times of need. These were the 3 classics I read in the month of March. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have read any of these books, please let me know down in the comments what you thought about them. If you would like to suggest some other books by these authors, let me know down as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to see you all in my next video very soon. Bye.